Hey, what's going on everybody? This is Ryan with Collecting Casually, and I'm curious, have you ever bought comics out of a cooler? Comic books in a cooler, you say? Yeah, we'll get to that cooler part in a second. So yesterday at lunch, I was taking a look at Facebook Marketplace, and I found an ad with this title, 100 plus comic book collection in sleeves with Jim Lee autograph. Price, $120, marked down to $60, listed 4 days ago, still available. If you're like me, you were probably a little suspicious about the Jim Lee autograph, but the pictures that they showed in the description on the listing did look to be a Jim Lee autograph, and we'll show that book off here in a bit, but they also had a COA with that autograph, so it added a little more legitimacy to the purchase. Now, along with 4 images that I'll show here in just a second, they had a description, and it was listed as this. It said, along with a variety of old vintage hardback plastic protected comics, several number 1 releases, and a Jim Lee autographed X-Men, this collection is a steal for the price. First come, first serve, $120 or best offer. Like I said, they had actually marked the price down in Facebook Marketplace to $60, and it had been available for a few days. So honestly, I didn't think this collection was going to be available at all. You know how Facebook Marketplace can be. Folks will post something up for sale, and they'll sell it right away, and they'll forget to mark it sold. So I went ahead and reached out, sent them a message, said, hey, I'm available today. Is this collection still available? If so, I can meet you just about any time now, between now and the next hour or so for my lunch break. Luckily, they responded back right away. We set a time and location to meet up, and I headed their way with some cash. Now, when we met up, the guy brought out this collection of comic books in an old Coleman cooler. You know, the plastic type that's got the lid and the folding up handle. He comes out to the car, brings it around, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, these comics are going to be in horrible shape. Now, if you noticed in the pictures that I showed just a minute ago, they weren't the best condition pictures. You couldn't really tell what all was in the collection, but I knew that that X-Men book was there with what looked to be a legitimate Jim Lee signature, so I knew I had to at least go take a look at this collection. Now, I will say most of this collection turned out to be what I would consider junk 80s and 90s comics. I'm honestly going to probably turn them into buttons like these with the kids. We've started to make little buttons. And we'll do that with a bunch of these because honestly, probably 20 to 30 of the comics that I bought in this collection didn't have covers at all. So those right away are worthless to me outside of making buttons and crafts with them. So while they're not worth anything as comics, in my opinion, they're at least fun supplies for our scraps and button making activities. So the rest of the books, though, are just books that I'm not interested in. Honestly, I was really there for this Jim Lee book if it turned out to be legitimate. But I did find some other books in the collection that I pulled out and I'm going to show off here. First one up is Marvel Team Up featuring Spider-Man and Captain Marvel. This is number 16, 20-cent comic here. This is actually the first appearance of Basilisk. Yeah, let me get that out of my mouth first. This book's pretty rough, in all honesty. Pretty much a total spine split all the way up and down the book. Lots of creases, lots of wear. This isn't going in the personal collection. I'm actually probably going to put this out for sale in my wife and I's antique booth for a couple bucks in the booth there. So this one will be up for sale shortly. Next up was Masters of the Universe number 1. This is in the series, the miniseries of 3. Again, another pretty beat up comic here. We've got a ton of spine wear. There's actually some tears in the cover here, some missing pieces, a ton of crinkles and wrinkles on this. A press isn't going to help this. A clean isn't going to help this. This is going to be another one that goes up for sale in the booth for $1 or $2, just to get some more filler books out there at the booth. Next up is one of my favorite covers. Unfortunately, it's not in great shape, just like many of these other books, and that is Spider-Man number 13 from Todd McFarlane's run of Spider-Man. Awesome cover, probably one of my favorite covers. McFarlane does it best. You can't do it better than him. I love this cover, love the pose. I've got so many books mimicking it. You can probably see a couple back here. But again, just an awesome book for somebody wanting to add it to their collection that may not have it. Got some decent spineware here, but that'll be another one that's going out into the booth. Another book in that run a little later on is 26. This is the 30th anniversary hologram cover here. Nothing really to say about this book. You know, it's got that gimmicky hologram on the front from the 90s, a ton of spine ticks and spineware. Another book that's going to go out into the booth. A book that is not going to go out into the booth, Daredevil 126, The Triumph of the Torpedo. Now this book, I really love an aspect of it, which is the date stamp. I love getting books with the date stamp. Just shows that story, tells that story about, you know, a shop that got it in, put the date stamp on there so they knew when they got it in and could take it off of their shelves, most likely. This book, again, has a ton of spine ticks and spineware. Other than that, though, it's in actually pretty decent shape. This one will be staying in the collection until I get a better copy of it, most likely. Next up is King Conan #1. Another book I don't have in my collection that I will be keeping for a while here. This is a square-bound book, so unfortunately we do have some spine ticks here, but not as many as we've seen on some of the other books, probably because it was a square-bound book. But we've got a big crease wrinkle here in the middle. Again, a book I didn't have in the collection, but I'm happy to add to it. Getting a little more modern, though, we have New Mutants 100. This is the final issue in this run. Rob Liefeld cover, so plenty of pouches, messed up feet. You know the deal with Liefeld covers, but you know what? He's a fan favorite, so we got to give him respect there. But another book that was in New Mutants run, and we've got the final issue here. We also have New Mutants #1, the introduction to this run here. This is actually in pretty decent shape. Again, some spine ticks and a little bit of a notch out of the top of the book here, but not in bad shape. It's a book I don't have in my collection, so we'll be putting it in place in this run until we get a better copy for the long term. Now, where I wanted to end up, and the real reason I went to take a look at this collection, is X-Men #2 with the Jim Lee autograph right at the top, and we're getting glare. We've got Jim Lee's autograph right across the top here in gold pin. Now, the nice thing about this book is it did come with the certificate of authenticity. It's stamped by Comics Express, indicating that it's one out of a certain number, saying that the signature will be in gold marker across the title, which it is. Super excited to add this to the collection. It's actually in pretty decent shape. There are some spine ticks, and it's got a little cover wear and a little dented in corner. But for being held in a cooler for who knows how long with the rest of these books in a pretty ratty bag and board, I'm actually pretty impressed with the quality of this book. Jim Lee is a favorite of mine. I don't know how many copies of this #2 I already have, along with, you know, all the copies and variants of cover #1, the whole run of X-Men here that Jim Lee did in the early 90s. But this is my first signature book from Jim. Now, I don't think I'm going to send this into CBCS or anything like that to get it slabbed and authenticated. The book just isn't in that good of shape for me to want to send it in and spend that kind of money to have it preserved. We'll just keep it in the Mylar here and show it off when it makes sense. And who knows, maybe I'll get an upgraded copy of that sometime, or maybe even a #1 that's signed by Jim. So what I paid for this collection, we already talked about, $60. I think that was a pretty good deal. I'm surprised that these books lasted that long. The seller did indicate that they had a couple more people that were supposed to be showing up later in the afternoon that day to take a look at the collection. Whether that's true or not, who knows. $60 for all these books. There's another 90 or so sitting to the side here that I'm going to just go through, bag and board, and get them out to the booth in the dollar bin. Let me know what you think of this collection. Did I do good on this pickup? I think I'm pretty happy with this collection that I picked up for $60. And let me know the weirdest circumstances that you've bought a collection. Was it in a cooler? Have you found comics in a cooler? What's the craziest story you have when purchasing a collection? Until next time, we'll see you guys later.